Hey, Kilted Warrior here. Hope you're having a great day. If you enjoy lore videos discussing Fallout, Elder Scrolls or Mass Effect, be sure to subscribe and check out my other videos. Otherwise, join me as we take the plunge into Fallout. Fallout. A byword for the result of a great event or disaster. For humanity in the 21st century, it would be the aftermath of nuclear annihilation, when the superpowers of the world sought to end the great game. They did, at the cost of the world we knew. Yet it was not the end for humanity, as civilizations and their heroes would rise again from the ashes of the old world. And by telling their stories across the post-war United States, we can then finally understand the fallout. The New California Republic. New World, Old Ideas. Before the war that would reshape humanity, purging it with nuclear fire, the United States functioned as a democratic and capitalist society with all the drawbacks, risks, and the inevitable corruption that those systems all eventually face in time. The Great War wiped the board clean, and many of the old ideas, both in the United States and across the globe, along with much of humanity's records and knowledge with it. Yet, as the vaults opened and humans started to build communities again, though many resorted to tribal systems based on subsistence or raiding, some forged trade links, and merchants quickly began to set up caravans to allow trade between peaceful communities. Shady Sands was one such community that, through its first leaders, came to value commerce and diplomacy first and foremost. Naturally, the old world values of democracy, trade and collective defense, which would take hold in the vast post-war California, not far from LA, the Boneyard. Shady Sands was at a crossroads, stuck between the Mojave to the north and east, and to the west the once fertile lands of the central Californian Valley, and to the south the growing trade communities clinging to that once great city of angels. The land of this new world was harsh, but with the right vision and some work, could a piece of the old world rise once again? Origins, a nation of farmers and merchants. The New California Republic, as with any civilization or nation throughout history, has humble origins on a localized, community-driven level. As for the NCR, it starts in a small settlement called Shady Sands, a community of farmers, founded by a group of vault dwellers, including the man named Aradesh, who would become the town's leader. As of 2161, was starting to become a point of interest to travellers of the wasteland, with mercenaries, merchants and raiders becoming increasingly aware of the small but growing community. In December of that same year, an individual that would become the catalyst for a series of great changes wandered into the small town and changed its history. The Vault Dweller had arrived. This was the first stop of that legendary individual that would define the history of the west coast of the United States. With the help of this individual, Shady Sands would overcome a few of its crises that had threatened its community, both with raiders and rat scorpion infestations among them, which, having been resolved, and with Aradesh as its capable leader, and a worldly and just as capable Tandy, his daughter, and both would earn their places as founders of the NCR, alongside the founder of the legendary NCR Rangers, one Zeph, and together they granted this community a stability and were crucial for the burgeoning Republic, as with the Vault Dweller and the Brotherhood defeating the super mutant army under the Master, thus stabilising the wasteland. and allowing the many growing communities to form connections with Shady Sands, as under its capable leaders it would become a leading power in the region. The consolidation of the Republic. Following the upheaval caused by the Master's army and the coming of the Vault Dweller, the threat of outside forces made it clear that separate small communities were vulnerable, isolated, and ran the risk of destruction. This thinking among the communities of post-apocalyptic California was the catalyst for Aradesh and his daughter Tandy to organize a solution to the problem. Gathering together leaders from across what would become known as the 5 states, in 2186 they would create the first trial council government that would start the process of bringing together the communities of the region, and by 2189 the states including Shady Sands, The Hub, Maxon, LA, the Boneyard, and Dayglow all agreed to found the new Californian Republic as the 5 states, with Aradesh as its first president, and after him Tandy would become its second. Together their continuity of leadership and competent administration allowed the consolidation of the NCR's position, expanding to include many other communities, and pacifying or driving away many hostile groups that had lived in the area, including the Khans, the Jackals, and the Vipers, while the defeat of the Enclave at the hands of the Chosen One later, and the NCR then stood poised to expand further. Yet in the crucial year of 2248, the great stateswoman President Tandy passed away at the ripe old age of 103, and that same year, like an omen of the NCR's troubles to come, a man in the east would rise and create another kind of empire to challenge the Great Bear, and it would be opposed to the values of Tandy and her father that they had instilled in the early Republic. Caesar's conquest of the 87 tribes had begun. Yet the NCR had grown strong, and the Legion was yet to pose a threat. However, the signs of the Republic's limits, both in its ideology and its military, were to be highlighted by another foe they would soon face both in the West and in the Mojave, one forged in steel. The NCR-Brotherhood War. A test of steel. Though the communities that would form the NCR found common ground with the West Coast Brotherhood chapters, particularly out of Lost Hills, as they dealt with the remnants of the Master's army following the Vault Dweller's defeat of the Master, and then again when they fought the insurgent Enclave forces, the Brotherhood had once been the most important power in the region, able to deploy effective, technologically advanced forces and offer some technology to assist the locals, while confiscating any dangerous technology. The NCR eventually was to outpace the Brotherhood as the growing power of the region, and would lead to a number of consequences. Yet, the Brotherhood still had squads of well-trained soldiers in power armor, technological super soldiers, and still believed it had a duty to secure dangerous technology in order to prevent another catastrophe. However, the NCR refused to acknowledge this mandate and chose to ignore the Brotherhood's demands, so war seemed inevitable. Thus, in the 2250s, on and off skirmishes turned into large-scale confrontations that would mark many battles fought over 3 decades of conflict. The Brotherhood is noted as fighting well and achieving several victories in the early stages of the war, yet in the end it could not match the Republic's manpower and the weight of resources it could bring to bear, and the Brotherhood was unable to replenish its own fallen forces at the same rate as their foe. Attrition made it clear that military might alone would not best the NCR's forces. In time, they forced the Brotherhood into retreat, with as many as 6 Brotherhood chapter bunkers having been sacked directly by the NCR themselves, while others had been abandoned by the Brotherhood. Despite this, the Brotherhood managed to strike a stinging blow against the NCR by attacking its gold reserves, causing great economic instability, which even into the 2280s, with the NCR dollar suffering heavy inflation due to being forced to give up the gold standard and function as a flat currency. An issue that became even more noticeable among the people of the Mojave later, as they would see the value of the Legion's currency in comparison. Yet, the West Coast was not the only front of this war, as with the expansion into the Mojave in the 2270s would see the Mojave Brotherhood chapter fight the NCR, culminating in the battle over the Helios 1 facility. However, unlike their Western counterparts, who had had some success early on in their tactical engagements against the NCR, the Mojave Brotherhood under Father Elijah was inexperienced and its leader lacking in the tactical acumen to face the now experienced NCR commanders who had spent years fighting the West Coast Brotherhood. In a decisive strike, the NCR amassed a large force that struck at the Helios 1 facility in Operation Sunburst, with reports of half of the Mojave Brotherhood's forces being lost in the siege, forcing the Brotherhood's remnants to seek shelter in the Hidden Valley bunker. It was now clear the NCR had won the war, though not without substantial cost to its economy and the trust of the people it now exploited, particularly in the Mojave. Yet by the time of the NCR-Legion War, the Brotherhood, though still technically at war with the Republic, was considered another footnote in the Republic's rise. Yet the stage was now set for an even greater battle that was to come. The NCR-Legion War, a clash of ideologies. Where there is a hegemonic power, there are those who rise to challenge it. As the NCR had slowly but surely consolidated its power, since the aging President Tandy had met the Chosen One and witnessed the fall of the Enclave, and later the Republic forced the Brotherhood into retreat, and the Republic was then unchallenged on the west coast of the United States, and quickly ousted the raiders and tribes that had once threatened it, driving many of them eastward. Yet with any expansionist great power, the NCR was hungry for more opportunities and wealth, pushing ever eastward until they reached Nevada and the Mojave, starting to pacify the region from the 2050s till the 2070s, by which point, looking across the Colorado, the Great Bear, proud of its conquests and its old world values of democracy, saw a mighty bull of autocracy staring back, for a worthy challenger had arisen from the divided tribes of Colorado, Utah, New Mexico, and Arizona under the ruthless autocratic warlord known as Caesar, the self-proclaimed son of Mars. In response to the growing threat of the Legion, the NCR under President Wendell Peterson signs the Ranger Unification Treaty, and henceforth unifying the NCR Rangers and the Desert Rangers of Nevada to face the new raids from across the Colorado River. By 2274, with now President Kimball assuming office, the NCR makes the Treaty of New Vegas with the elusive Mr. House and the Free Families to get control of Hoover Dam in return for several concessions, and all the while turning Vegas into a crucial population center in the Mojave under the control of Mr. House. Yet Caesar had not been idle during this time, and with the acquisition of the dam by the NCR, they would soon face the biggest challenge in their history, with the two ideologies clashing. In 2277, the Legion began to move into Mojave territory in force and would make an assault on Hoover Dam. The first battle of Hoover Dam, with Joshua Graham commanding the Legion, was a bloody affair, as the bear is as cunning as it is strong and manages to land a decisive blow against the Legion in Boulder City, as the initial successful offensive by the Legion leads to overconfidence, overextension, and the NCR is able to trap many of the Legion's forces in the city, with it being largely destroyed in the battle that ensued. With that, the bear stood proud but wounded, as the bull was chased back across the Colorado, but was far from beaten. Yet, with the Second Battle of Hoover Dam seeming inevitable and the fate of the Republic, its old world values were still in question. The war for the Mojave was only just getting started. The Bear's legacy and the trials ahead. With the Second Battle of Hoover Dam imminent, the Californian Bear stood at crossroads, not just with its battle with the Legion for supremacy, but also whether the Republic and its founding values would survive both its expansionist dreams of great conquest, but also the test of ideologies in which dialectics would see both forces changed. To understand this, next time we shall explore that most inveterate foe of the Republic, Caesar's Legion, and try to understand both the man, his vision, and what happens when an autocratic regime both rises and then faces the reality of all such regimes, a crisis of succession and legacy. That said, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this first plunge into Fallout lore for the channel. If you did enjoy it, don't forget to subscribe and let me know in the comments if there is any particular Fallout lore topics you would like to have explored. Otherwise, please have a great day and thanks for watching.